Have you ever wondered how an empire that once spanned a quarter of the globe, an empire on which the sun never set, could see its currency, the mighty pound sterling, come crashing down? It wasn't just about losing colonies or fighting costly wars. The real story, the secret reason, is far more complex and surprisingly relevant to the money in your pocket today. Stick with me, because we're about to uncover the hidden economic forces that brought the British Empire's currency to its knees, and what it means for our own financial future. For centuries, the pound sterling was the undisputed king of currencies. It was the world's reserve currency, meaning countries everywhere held it, traded with it, and trusted it. This trust was built on something solid: gold. The gold standard meant that every pound note in circulation was backed by a physical amount of gold held in the Bank of England as vaults. You could, in theory, walk into the bank and exchange your paper money for real, shiny gold. This system provided incredible stability. It anchored the value of money, prevented governments from printing too much of it, and made international trade predictable. The pound was as good as gold, literally. This was the financial backbone of a global empire, financing trade from London to Hong Kong, from Cape Town to Canada. The world ran on sterling. But this golden age had a fatal flaw, one that would be brutally exposed by the pressures of the 20th century. Then came World War I, a conflict on an unimaginable scale. Wars are incredibly expensive, and Britain had to finance not only its own war effort, but also that of its allies. The country started selling off its overseas assets and borrowing massive amounts of money, primarily from the United States. To pay for all this, the government had to make a fateful decision. They temporarily abandoned the gold standard. Why? Because the standard strictly limited how much money they could print. By breaking the link to gold, they could fire up the printing presses and create the cash needed to fund the war. It was a necessary evil at the time, but it planted the seeds of doubt. For the first time, the pound's value wasn't tied to something tangible. It was floating, and the world was watching. After the war, there was a desperate attempt to turn back the clock. In 1925, Winston Churchill, as Chancellor of the Exchequer, made the controversial decision to return Britain to the gold standard. The goal was to restore the pound's prestige and prove that Britain was still the world's financial leader. But they made a critical mistake. They returned to the pre-war exchange rate of $4.86 to the pound. This massively overvalued the pound. British goods became incredibly expensive on the world market, crippling exports. Industries like coal and steel couldn't compete. This led to mass unemployment, social unrest, and the famous General Strike of 1926. The attempt to recapture past glory was strangling the British economy. The pound was strong on paper, but the country supporting it was getting weaker by the day. While Britain was struggling, a new economic powerhouse was rising across the Atlantic: the United States. America had emerged from World War I not as a debtor, but as the world's biggest creditor. Its industries were booming, and Wall Street was replacing London as the center of global finance. The US dollar, also backed by a massive hoard of gold, was becoming the new currency of choice. International investors and central banks started shifting their reserves from pounds to dollars. It was a slow but undeniable transfer of power. The pound was no longer the only safe haven, and this competition put immense pressure on Britain's ability to maintain its overvalued currency. The writing was on the wall. The world was hedging its bets, and Britain was losing. The final blow came with the Great Depression, which began with the Wall Street crash of 1929. The global economic crisis sent shockwaves around the world. As economies collapsed, people and countries panicked. They rushed to convert their currencies, including the pound, into gold, the ultimate safe asset. This created a run on the Bank of England's gold reserves. Money was flowing out of London at an alarming rate. The government tried to stop the bleeding by raising interest rates, but it was too little, too late. On September 21, 1931, the inevitable happened. Britain was forced to abandon the gold standard for good. The pound immediately plummeted in value. The illusion was shattered. The currency that had underpinned a global empire for over a century had collapsed. It was no longer the world's anchor. So what's the secret reason the empire's currency fell? There wasn't one single event. It was a perfect storm. The crippling debt from World War I, the disastrous decision to return to the gold standard at an overvalued rate, the rise of a powerful new competitor in the US dollar, and the final panic of the Great Depression. The pound's collapse was a story of trying to maintain an old world status with a new world economy. The foundation of trust, once built on gold, was eroded by debt and poor policy decisions. The empire's financial dominance ended not with a bang, but with a bank run. Now, why does any of this matter today? Think about it. The world's current reserve currency is the US dollar. But since 1971, it hasn't been backed by gold. Its value is based on trust, on the strength of the US economy and its role in global trade. Sound familiar? We're seeing rising national debts in major economies, fierce competition from other currencies and economic blocs, and a world facing constant uncertainty. History shows us that no currency's dominance is permanent. The story of the pound sterling is a powerful reminder that economic power is fragile. Trust, once lost, is incredibly hard to regain. The same forces that brought down the pound debt, overvaluation, and competition are still at play in our modern financial world. The fall of the pound was a pivotal moment that reshaped the global financial landscape. It marked the end of an era and the true beginning of the American century. For Britain, it was a harsh lesson in economic reality, forcing the country to find a new place in a world it no longer dominated. For us, it serves as a crucial case study. It teaches us to look beyond the headlines and understand the deep-seated forces that truly govern the value of our money. The stability we often take for granted is not guaranteed. So the next time you hear debates about national debt, currency wars, or the future of the dollar, remember the ghost of the pound sterling. The secret to its collapse wasn't a mystery, but a warning from history. A warning that is more relevant today than ever before. What do you think? Are we seeing similar patterns today? And that is how the most powerful currency in the world collapsed from the inside. Not because Britain ran out of strength. Not because the empire simply declined. But because the entire financial system was built on a flaw so deep, so hidden, and so dangerous, that the moment the 20th century arrived, it became impossible to maintain. For decades, the world believed the British pound was unbreakable. It was the currency of global trade, global power, global certainty. But behind the scenes, the empire was bleeding through wars, through debt, through overextension, through a global economic model that only worked as long as Britain controlled the world. Once that control slipped, the currency fell with it. And here's the part that truly matters today. Every empire believes its currency will last forever. Rome thought that. Spain thought that. France thought that. And Britain did too, right until the moment the pound was replaced by the US dollar. If this story opened your eyes to how currencies rise and fall, and how history quietly repeats itself, then I want to thank you for watching all the way till the end. This is HistoroMystic, where we expose the hidden forces behind global powers, financial systems, and the turning points that shaped our world. Your support genuinely helps us keep creating deep research documentaries like this. So before you go, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join a community that looks beneath the surface of history instead of accepting the textbook version. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think today's superpowers are repeating the same mistakes the British Empire made? Is the next reserve currency already emerging? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this journey through economic history interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this one. See you next time.